hinted to that it is the longest because it's the second surah that comes after Surah Al-Fatiha, which is the opening of the book. So the longest because it details into the way, the sirat. At the end of Surah Al-Fatiha, which is chapter number 1, the believers, those who accepted the call, those who accepted to submit to their Lord, they asked the Lord to show them this Sirat al-Mustaqim. Oh Allah, show us the right path. Show us the way to please you. Show us the way to be in harmony with the universe, in harmony with you. Surah Al-Baqarah came to show them this methodology, this curriculum, this way, the path that they asked for. This was long. But if you look at Surah Al-Baqarah, a verse by verse, you might be lost. You might get some benefit, but you won't with and you did better benefit if you look at Surah Al-Baqarah holistically. Look at the slide now. So literally, we can summarize Surah Al-Baqarah in 4 parts. Introduction, and within each part, of course, there are like sub-parts. In the introduction, it is 2 topics. We'll talk about them now. And part 1 is 3 topics. We'll talk about them, inshallah, of course, like quickly. And if Allah wills that we can meet, inshallah, after Ramadan, we can talk about each part in details. And part 3, part 1 and part, so we have introduction and we have an end, and we have in the middle 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is 3 have 3 subparts or 3 subcategories, and the part 2 more than 1 topic, actually different themes, because it talks about the rules and regulations of the Muslim community. The introduction, we have 2 topics in the introduction. Topic number 1 that talks about no doubt in the book, كتاب لا ريب فيه, no crookedness in this book. This is the book that has no doubt, that's no crookedness, no fake news, nothing. It's just absolute truth in this book. And it tells us about the guidance to, that this book is a guidance to the righteous. Those who have asked for guidance in Surah Al-Fatiha, here it is, here is the guidance. But it is guidance, pay attention to this, هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It is a guidance for the righteous, for the people who have purified their hearts to know the truth, who have gotten rid of their arrogance and their pride and their prejudice and their anything that takes the brain or the mind or our judgment or our rational or our reason to judge unfairly. This book will not guide that mind, that kind like that state of mind. You have to be in a state in a mind state that is fair, that is seeking the truth and only the truth. Only then this book will guide you. And it talks about 3 types of people: al-muttaqin, the righteous, those who chose not to follow the Prophet or not to follow or not to listen to the message or to the call of Islam, and those who are hypocrites. This is from ayah 1 to ayah 20. These are talks about this is the introduction number 1. Okay, and I have it on. Okay, hold on. Or maybe I didn't share it. Okay, let me close it and then share it again. Okay. Now is it okay? Yes, okay. So again, to quickly to say, so this is the introduction. This is part one. This is part two. This is the end. These are the four main parts of Surah Al-Baqarah. And then, if we go back for more details, because we are kind of like I would call it like layers of details. So the first one, we look at the Surah Al-Baqarah holistically. So it is now we can have the big picture of Surah Al-Baqarah. It has an introduction. It has part one, which is the big part, and it has part two, and it has the end. Now we'll zoom in a little bit in the introduction, and we're gonna, like, for the third time, we'll come back to the introduction with zooming a bit, like zooming in with more details. If you look at the introduction, which are the ayat or the verses from ayah, the first ayah to ayah 20, you will find that talks about the book, that no crookedness in the book. The book, this is the guidance for the righteous, and talks about three people. This is from ayah 1 to ayah 20. It talks about three types of people, and these three types of people have been exposed to the call of this book, and the result is that people who believed in that, people who followed that, these are called the righteous, the believers, and those who decided, no, we are not going to follow that. So these are the disbelievers, and those who accept it, and they have to hide it, to hide their hatred or their disapproval or unaccept. They didn't accept. They accepted it on the surface, but their hearts didn't accept it. Islam means submitting with your heart. It doesn't mean doing things with your, like, on the surface. You have to dig deep into the meaning of what you believe in, and to practice it inside out. So this is the introduction. Or to be precise about the introduction, this is part one of the introduction, because the introduction runs from ayah 1 to ayah 29, I think. So this is ayah 1 to 20. If we move to ayah 21 to 29, and this is the rest of the introduction before starting part one. Before starting part one, the introduction now, introduction of Surah Al-Baqarah has two themes. The introduction of Surah Al-Baqarah that runs from ayah 1 to ayah 29 has two themes. First theme talks about the book, righteous, three types of people, and the introduction, part 2 of the introduction runs from ayah 21 to ayah 29, and it talks about only one theme, which is the call to humanity. And interestingly, that this is the first vocative in the Holy Quran. Vocative means calling the people. Oh, you, oh, yeah, getting the attention. Please listen. And it is not a call to the believers. It's not a call to the disbelievers. It's not a call to anyone. It is a call to humanity. Ya in Arabic, Ya ayyuhan nas. Oh, you human beings. Listen. Listen with your heart. This is a call for you to listen with your heart. And I mean, listening with your heart, putting aside any prejudice, any pride, any personal judgments about this call. Just read it as a text, what it means, think about it, reflect about it between you and yourself. This is a call to humanity to think about يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من يا أيها الناس. This is, let me go back. Sometimes it just skips my mind. I memorize it. Yes. يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. It talks about, oh, you human beings, worship Allah. Come back to your Lord, who created you and who created those who came before you. Since Adam till the day of judgment, Allah has created everything. So worship him, because he created that. He took care of that. He's the merciful for that. He is showering his mercy, his bounties, his blessings over people since day one of this life till the day of judgment. Why do we come back to you? Because it is you who created it. When you buy, for example, when you buy a machine, a computer or a fridge or whatever from whatever brand, the manufacturer, and something wrong goes with that. And if you have a Samsung computer, for example, you don't go to Apple to fix it, you go to Samsung. So you as a human being is the creation of the creator, the Lord. So when there is something that you need to know about it, you go back to the Lord. He will give you the catalog. He will give you the instructions to read it. He will give you the instruction to decipher whatever is going on. So this is يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم. Worship, believe, know, not only know. I mean, this knowledge will require some regulations and rulings after that. It's not just knowing. And this is a very important a very important aspect in Islam, that Islam is not an orthodoxy. Islam is not an orthodoxy. Islam is an orthopraxy. Orthodoxy is the correct belief, that as long as you have the correct belief in your heart, you are done. Islam is that, but not only that. Islam is to have the correct and the righteous and the sound belief in your heart, and also the sound and the correct and the righteous act upon that belief. So you have to act upon what you believe in. This is the difference between fully submitting to Allah, and just knowing that Allah is there. Knowing that Allah is there, everyone, I think, every sound human being knows that Allah is there. Every sound human being knows that the universe didn't just happen by the Big Bang or the whatever, it came by chance or by accident. So this is the introduction here, or the second part of the introduction, a call to humanity. After setting up the scene that this is the book, these are the three types of people. All human beings, come back to your Lord. Come back to, because actually every human being has something in their heart that longs for to actually, I would call it's a void. It's a psychological void, spiritual void that needs to be filled. And the human beings keeps looking for something to fill that void in anything. It can be in anything, in food, in job, in traveling, in hanging out with people. You try to do activities because you have something inside that you need to fill by reading a lot, but you still, at the end of the day, you don't feel a complete satiation of that hunger. This hunger that's inside of you, this is the spiritual void, and this is the need of your heart, the need of your spirit, the need of your soul to be filled with the light of its creator. And here is our creator, mercifully, he's calling upon us to go back to him. Why? Because he created us. And this is ayah 21. And ayah 22, he says, talks about earth and how he made it like this. Look around you. When you go out for a walk in the park, look around you. When you go and visit like orchard or gardens of grapes or fruits in Florida, in California, or wherever you are, go and think about it. Different colors, different shapes, different tastes, different, like even like sour, sweet, different types of, I'm talking about just what you can see. Have you gone into the ocean? Have you gone into the seas? Have you gone into the creatures in the ocean, creatures in the sea? Have you got into the space? Have you seen all this? Have you seen what is underground or under the earth? What's hidden in there? Allah has made this like for human beings to discover, to look for, to exert their effort to use it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, is giving us his physical blessings to think about it, to go back to him. This is actually part 2. I'm summarizing here. Okay. So again, to summarize the introduction has 2 themes. The theme about theme number 1 talks about the book and talks about the 3 types of people. and also it talks about a call. It ends by a call to humanity, because this is the introduction to what will come in. I'll give you now examples of who have been called, who have been given the same call, and we'll see the different reactions from them. And this will be part one. So we finished the introduction. Now we'll start part one. We have part one. We have the story of Adam and Eve, and it runs from verses 30 to 39. Talks about the beginning of our father and mother, Adam and Eve, in paradise. They were given the chance to live in paradise as long as they listen to this, to listen, obey. They have asked it, you guys are gonna live here as long as you want, or as long as forever, basically, as long as you don't eat from that tree. And this is actually the type of submission, because when you submission doesn't come free. Submitting to your Lord does not come free. Yani, have you ever seen any, like, uh, employer who have, like, been giving people money without them giving back work? So any contract comes with a requirement. Any job comes with a job description. So the job description was, you are going to live here, going to enjoy everything except that tree. So this is to test, and the word, the vocabulary, the concept actually of testing, the concept of trial is a very essential concept in the Holy Quran. And it comes parallel together with the concept of submission. So Adam and Eve were tested by Allah, and they failed the test. But failing the test for the true submitter, or the one who's submitting, or the one who submits, is not the end of the story. And also included in Adam and Eve's story is the story of Iblis, or Shaitan, Satan. He was also tested, because when Allah asked the angels to kneel down, to prostrate for Adam in respect, because this is an order, this is a command from my Creator, and since I submitted to Him, I'm not going to argue about I am not going to argue, because argument also is going to be a crucial concept in the second story of part one, which is the Bani Israel, arguing. So the angel submitted, except for Iblis, except for the Shaitan, except for the Satan. He did not prostrate to Adam. He thought that he is better than Adam. But if you really think about it, Allah has created you and Adam and asked you to prostrate to Adam. So you have no choice, because this is your Lord, this is your master, if you truly believe. So Adam and Eve, with the first story, with the first test, with the first Adam and Eve, as I said, with the first story in part one, or the first example that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us about the type of submission that He wants from us. The wants of submission that He wants from us. And also included in Surah, in the story of Adam, is that He taught him al-asma, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, verse number 31. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. He taught Adam all the names. What all the names? Scholars have been talking about it, interestingly, and the most comprehensive explanation that I found is that Allah has taught Adam everything since day one till the day of judgment. Names of everything, the descriptions, the connotation, of things, the semantic of it, the meaning, the shades of meaning, the physical meaning or the literal meaning, the metaphorical meaning, everything that we are seeing now was induced, or was I would say was given to Allah. It was given by Allah to Adam. And this is actually a very crucial, this is essential ayah, علم آدم الأسماء كلها, which means that for those who are going to follow this message, those who will respond to this call, science and knowledge is an integral part of the system. You have to be knowledgeable. What knowledge? Everything. The divine knowledge, knowing your Lord, and also the hardcore science, physics, chemistry, medicine, everything. Everything that would make our life easy and safe and protected. Okay. So what happened with Adam? Adam failed the test, which means that he sinned by forgetting about the promise or the pledge or the order or the command of Allah that he shouldn't eat from that tree. What happened? He was sent down to earth. He was taken from the place that he was given to another place, which means that he was replaced, which means the sin is the cause of a change of a state from righteous, from peace, into another state that doesn't, or that lacks peace and lacks tranquility and lacks the inner peace. The change doesn't come from Allah, it comes from the human beings. So it was Adam who ate, and the change in his state from being there to being here on earth is because of what he did of not listening. So this is the story of Adam, which is the first story in part 1. Here comes the second story, or the second parable of, or narratives about children of Israel. Israel, as I said last time, is the Yaqub. And if you can look at the number of verses from ayah 40 to ayah 123, which is a lot, a big chunk of verses that talks about the children of Israel. What does it, quickly, what does it talk about, what does it talk about in the children of Israel, or the Bani Israel? What does this talk about? It talks about the experience of the children of Israel since Moses came to them. This started with Jacob, Yusuf alayhi salam, in Egypt, the 12th tribe in Egypt. The scenes that Surah Al-Baqarah represents here talks about with Moses, and it reminds them of their past. It talks about a lot of stories. This is not the time to talk about it. When we come back again for more zooming in, for more details, we'll talk about it. Talks about models or stories of the blessings and the bounties that God, the Creator, has showered the Bani Israel with. Like what? That Allah has saved them from the Pharaoh, Fir'aun. وَإِذْ نَجَّيْنَاكُمْ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ, because they have subjected you to slavery. They have subjected you to all kinds of persecution, to all kinds of torture. They would kill the men and they keep the women. They kill the children also. Allah has saved all of you, the children of Israel, from them. This is one bounty. Allah has enabled you to cross the sea without any ships, without any, just walking on the water. He made it like a bridge, so you safely crossed the sea, while the Pharaoh who tried to follow you was drowned with his soldiers in the same sea. Isn't it about, yeah, you have seen this with your eyes. Allah is telling Bani Israel, you have seen this with your eyes. And also one of the bounties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised Moses to come after 40 days. And when he came, he was given the Torah. Isn't it a blessing? The blessing because the Torah has the teachings, has the regulation, has the rules that make your life better. A lot. I don't want to, I don't want to, I just want to, I don't want to skip from the macro structure to the micro now, but the section that talks about Bani Israel or the children of Israel, it talks about the bounties and their reaction. How did they behave to that? And an essential part of this part is the story of the Al-Baqarah, the cow. And this is why this surah is named after this this section or this part. It's Al-Baqarah that is in ayah 71, ayah 67 to 71. Ayah 67, 71, it talks about Moses asking his people to kill a cow. To kill a cow? Yeah. What is the story? The story, briefly, is Bani Israel woke up one day and they found someone was killed, but they didn't know who killed him. Who killed him? So they asked it. They went to, they couldn't find the killer, so they went back to Moses, asking him, "Ask your Lord." And notice that when they talk about Musa and their Lord, okay, ask your Lord. Look at your. Ask your. Ud'u lana rabbaka. They didn't say ask our Lord because we and you believe in the same. Ask your Lord, which shows you the spiritual distance in their heart between the true belief and their hearts. And the true belief, the true light wasn't actually instilled in their hearts. So they ask your Lord to show us who killed it. And because they didn't believe, if Allah was able, and he is the all able, to tell Musa, such and such person is the killer. That's it. But if Musa went back to them and told them such and such person, Allah is telling me that this person is the killer, would they believe him? According to the stories, they wouldn't believe him. They believe in something that they can see. And even after seeing it and touching it and personally experiencing it, they didn't even believe in it. So Allah, matching their way of thinking, the materialistic way of thinking, he asked Moses ask your people to bring a cow and kill it, and once you kill it, take part of that cow and hit the killed person with that part, and that person will come back to life and tell who killed him. This is a holistic, this is a totally physical experience. Although they asked him to kill a cow, they said, "What cow? How old is it? What color is that?" It was totally sufficient if they brought any cow and they killed it. But the state of, or the mind of, or the habit of arguing, not because you want to reach a reasonable conclusion, but it is arguing for arguing's sake. It's an interesting part, going back and forth between his people, Moses and the Lord, Moses, his people, Moses, Lord. It's like this. And Allah is going with them, giving them details, evidence, until they finally said, "Okay, we know it. We are going to kill it." And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, describes the way they killed it. فَذَبَحُوهَا, they killed it. وَمَا كَادُوا يَفْعَلُونَ, يعني they barely did. The true submission that will come in part 2, Allah, the Lord, does not want a barely action from you. He wants a loving, a complete and absolute submission, that you willingly submit to him because you know him, and you know that he deserves to be submitted to, he deserves to be obeyed, so you willingly, with love, you do that. This is not the type in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the story of Al-Baqarah, not the chapter. I'm talking about the story of killing the cow. This is not the type of faith that Allah wants from His people, and that's why the Allah Subhanahu wa Taala wants us to believe in the unseen. That's why the chapter is called the Surah Al-Baqarah, because Surah Al-Baqarah reflects or represents an essential concept with the children of Israel, that they do not believe in the unseen. And that's why, if we go back to that chapter, to the beginning of the chapter, what was the first attribute, the attribute or feature or description that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to the believers, the righteous? الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ, those who believe in the unseen. Even before those who pray, even those before who give charity, even those who do this and this and this, the first description was, the first trait of those people are they believe in the unseen. This is an essential part. Believing in the unseen is an essential part in this story, and that's why this surah has chosen, although the surah has many stories, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has picked, or this name has picked for the surah, the cow, because of the essentiality of the cow, believing in the unseen, because they have to see them. They have to see the killer like being raised, so they would know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would cause resurrection after death. In conclusion of this part about Bani Israel, as if Allah is preparing those who will take the message of submission of Islam, preparing them. Look at those people. This is not the example that you want to do or you want to follow. This is a bad example. They have seen miracles of their prophet, from their prophet, yet they kept arguing, asking, neglecting, ignoring, denying. This is not a good example to follow. So if you want to be among those who truly submit to your Lord, follow, don't follow those. This is a bad example. So you have been given now the coming nation, Al-Ummah, the coming people who will accept the message or the call of Islam. You have been given the example of Adam, and you have seen. You have been given the shaitan, and you have seen what happened, and you have been given the example of the children of Israel. And this section ends with Jacob and talks about, have you seen Jacob when he was approaching death? In the last minutes of his death, in the few moments before his death, what did he do? He brought his children, the children of Israel. These are the leaders of the tribes of Israel. And he told them, مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن بَعْدِي, what will you follow? What will you worship after me? I am here, I'm alive, I'm guiding you, I'm showing you. But what will you follow after me? They said, قالوا نعبد إلهك. We will worship your Lord, your creator, and the creator of Abraham, Ishmael, and Isaac. The Lord of Abraham, Ishmael, and Isaac. So Jacob, like, peacefully died, or as when he listened or when he heard that his children will follow the straight path. This is the end of the section. An advice that Jacob has given to his children, and he was making sure that they will follow that. So this is the children of Israel. When we come to this and the last part of section of part 1, the story of Abraham. So we have now three stories. Let's talk a little bit about the story of Abraham, the father of the prophet. Talks about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this section tells us, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ, which Allah has tested Abraham so many times. Abraham has gone through so many tests, so many trials, so many tribulations, and he passed all of them with flying stars. He passed all of them with flying stars. He didn't fail, not only passed, he actually, as I said, with flying, يعني exceedingly, excellently passed the test. So he deserved to be honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be an imam, to be a khalifa. And this is the khalifa, what? This is the true message at the beginning. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. When Allah told Adam, I am going to make a viceroy. And when Abraham fulfilled the promises, fulfilled and passed the test, he deserved to be a khalifa, a viceroy. And Abraham said, okay, oh Allah, I really appreciate, thank you so much, Allah, that you have given me this. Can it be in my offspring too? The imama, the khilafah, being a viceroy. He said, لا ينال عهد الظالمين. لا ينال عهد الظالمين. الظالمين, those who do the wrongdoers. Those who are wrongdoers do not fulfill the message, though they not deserve to be a viceroy on this earth. This is the summary of the this is a summary of the as if now the if we look at in as we always do at part one, from a macro structure point of view, we'll see Adam, children of Israel, and Abraham, and you can compare the stories as we have. I mean, I actually, although I have read a lot about this, I always read the Surah Al-Baqarah. I always think about it. So I ask everyone who is listening to me now, just think about it. And the Lord, if He knows sincerity for your heart, wallah, He will give you information and knowledge that might not have been given to anyone before. And this is one of the blessings of the Quran. So we have Adam, children of Israel, Adam as an example, children of Israel, another example, Abraham as an example. Three examples are given before starting to talk to those who will accept the nation, those who will follow Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, peace and prayers be upon him, and all the prophets. So as if Allah, the Lord, is preparing the nation that is coming to lead humanity for the right path, for the landmarks of the way. So be careful. Okay, I have 15, 20 minutes. You follow me? Is it clear now? Inshallah, if you have any questions, you can write it in the chat, and then inshallah, I'll look at them and or at the end. Try to. So now we are done with the introduction with its two themes and the part one with its three stories. And now you can see that the structure of the surah is actually coherent. And also when we look at the microstructure later on, we will know that it's also cohesive. Coherent means that the meanings, the themes are well glued to each other. They are bonded to each other, strongly bonded actually. They make sense after each other. And when we come to talk about the details of each story, what exactly did the children of Israel, what exactly did Adam say, what happened with Abraham, we will get more about that. So now starting with the macro structure actually helps us to see the big picture before going to the micro structure. Now we'll move on to the part two. Part two talks about rules and regulations for the ummah, for the nation, for the people, for Muhammad and whoever will follow him. So if you are among those, you have seen examples, and this is what you roll if you want to be, of course, the best example among the three stories that we have been listening to is Abraham. And Abraham is represented in Quran as a role model. Inna Ibrahim kana ummah. He was by himself, although he was an individual, he is a nation in himself, a nation. an imam, a leader, someone who is worthy of imitated or followed, to follow his footsteps. This is if you want to fulfill the requirements of being a true viceroy of Allah on this earth, follow the footsteps of Abraham, because Muhammad came after Abraham and he is also following the footsteps of Abraham. These are the rules and regulations. The rules and the regulations actually in part 2, uh, it runs from the very early, so, the story of Abraham was like at ayah, let me see. Yeah, it is in here. Yeah. Oh, this is not ayah. This. Okay, let me go back to the. Yeah, so this is the part of the 3 stories ends in ayah 141. So this starts from ayah 142. Part 2 starts from. Please forgive me for not fixing this. I was just fixing this right before the session. So part 2 starts from ayah 142, verse 142 to 284. This is almost half of the surah are rules and regulations for the coming nation. For the coming nation who accepted Islam. And the rules and the regulation came in the form of summarizing, recapping the mistakes of the previous wrongdoers, of the previous, namely the children of Israel. So the coming nation or the coming ummah or the Muslim ummah would avoid the traps with that the children of Israel fell in. Like how? We will see. Let me give you this, that this is, I mean, as you can see, half of the surah is in this part. Definitely, we cannot talk about it in the remaining like 15 minutes. But let me give you the macro structure that this part is weaved around. This part is weaved around, is built around 3 things. Number 1, at-ta'a in Arabic. At-ta'a means obedience, submitting, willingly submitting. At-tamayyuz, differentiation, distinctiveness. So the true viceroy of if anyone who wants to be a true viceroy of the Lord on earth has to absolutely, completely, willingly, with love, submit and obey. Obey what? Obey. If Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have believed, say, O Allah, I am listening. Tell me. At-ta'a. Number 1, at-ta'a, obedience. Number 2, differentiation, that the followers, the true viceroys, are distinctive. In how, we'll come to details, inshallah. God's willing. And then they have to be characterized by taqwa, piousness, righteousness, straightforwardness, transparency, taqwa. Taqwa is being pious. Because most of the regulations, if not all of them, actually are based on the person being pious. It's not like playing tricks with that. Because someone might be told that this is something that Islam, that Allah, that true submission contradicts, so don't do it. So they might look for something to do it, but in a non-straightforward way, in a zigzag way. Say, no, I didn't do what you said. I mean, I stuck to what you say. I'm sticking to what you said, but at the end, he did what he was not supposed to do, but doing it in a different way. This is not Islam. Islam is a straightforward path. they call it Sirat al-Mustaqim, straightforward. So it is about the ends, not about the means, which means that it doesn't mean that you got something that is not allowed in this way, and Allah, that's yeah, it will, this point actually will be clear when we talk about money. Yeah, and I'll give you an example about from the children of Israel. They were asked by their Lord not to fish on Saturday, not to fish. So the point is not fishing. So they would come on the end, at the end of Friday, and they set up the nets and the fishing tools in the sea, so the fish might be collected in their nets, and they don't do anything on Saturday, and on Sunday they would go and bring and grab their fish. So Allah, so this is not a straightforward way to do. They still have disobeyed Allah by doing this, although they didn't do anything on Saturday. So it depends on, so the true submission depends on what is in your heart. So you want to do, yeah, you want to do what your Lord has asked you not to do, but in a zigzag way, in a non-straightforward way. This is not what the so obedience, distinctiveness, and obedience, distinctiveness, and piety, being. So very quickly, I have 10 minutes. The rules and regulation for those who are true believers, true viceroy. This section talks about the change of the Qibla, of the direction where Muslims pray. We all know that Muslims pray now toward the direction of Qibla in Mecca. Before that, at the beginning of Islam, when the Rasulullah went to Medina, the Muslims were praying to Baytul Maqdis in Jerusalem. And the Jews were also, the children of Israel, were praying to that direction. And there came the change. Allah has asked it. It wasn't easy it wasn't easy for people to accept it. Someone who has been directing, who have been all these years worshipping towards Jerusalem, and now the direction has been shifted to Mecca. And Allah summarizes this action that وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُضِيعَ إِيمَانَكُمْ, and Allah only did this لنعلم, يعني we didn't do the direction of the إلا لنعلم من يتبع الرسول ممن ينقلب على عقبيه, to only know who will follow the prophet, who will obey. Remember this, the three things that I have just said: obedience and being piety for following the prophet. So the change of the Qibla, this was a test. This was a test. Some people have failed the test, some people have succeeded in that or passed the test, like Abraham, who passed the test. Also talks about the Safa wal Marwa. Safa wal Marwa is the two places in Mecca that everyone who does the Hajj has to go between them like 7 times. And the non-believers or the disbelievers in Mecca used to do this before Islam. So some of the believers thought that doing this wouldn't make them distinctive. Tamayyuz. We said obedience, distinctiveness, and piety. So shifting the Qibla from Jerusalem to distinguish the new belief from the past belief. Also, when some people wanted to make Hajj, they were asked to go between the Safa and the Marwa, because the Safa has one of the idols of the Isaf, Wana'ila, one on the Safa and one of the Marwa. And the believers, the followers, like was kind of reluctant to do this because they wouldn't be distinctive, because they thought they might be imitating the disbelievers, because the disbelievers used to do the same activity going back and forth between the Safa and the Marwa. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, no, لا جناح علي أن يطفل. There is nothing wrong with that, because to be distinctive, it doesn't mean to be distinctive that you have to totally and absolutely be different in everything. No, you can do something, and it depends on what Allah asks you to do and what Allah asks you not to do. This is the Safa al Marwa. And then the third theme in this section talks about the comprehensiveness of Islam. And this is to the rest of ayat until till the last two ayat. Talks about the comprehensiveness about Islam. It talks about regulations about retaliation, the legal retaliation. It talks about wills when someone is about to die or he has wealth, has property, and he wants to be distributed. He can write a will. Talks about details about that. Talks about fasting, details of fasting, regulations and rules of fasting. We are now fasting in Ramadan. It talks about fighting, rules and regulation about fighting. It talks about pilgrimage, al-Hajj, rules and regulation about al-Hajj. Talks about, and it ends this section that talks about types of good deeds, the legal and the criminal regulation. Talks about fasting, prayers, fighting, Hajj, all everything it talks about, and it summarizes it. It caps this with an ayah that says, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu udkhulu fi silmi kaffa." Enter in Islam. Silm is Islam. Yani enter in Islam comprehensively. 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 This is an essential concept that you take Islam as a comprehensive message. You don't take part that you like and you leave the parts that you don't like. No. And that's why you have seen in this section that Allah has gone from regulation, criminal regulation, marriage, divorce, uh, 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 talking about the women when they are going through the monthly period, talks about the regulation of that, talks about the fasting, what's allowed, what's not allowed, talks about fighting, talks about see, from the state, from the general, from the public to the personal to the private matters. All this is included in the comprehensiveness of the network of Islam. Talks about fighting, talks about spending, talks about economy, talks about the sources of the legal or halal money, talks about riba, usury, interest, talks about interest, and this is uh, 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 the most ayah that talks about the most, what is the word? Uh, in this ayah that talks about riba, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't ever talked about it in any other thing. That if you will not get rid of usury and riba, so get ready, be prepared for a war from Allah and His Messenger. فأذنوا بحرب من الله ورسوله. حرب, a war from Allah. If you base your economy on usury and riba. It talks about al-khamr, wine, drinking. Talks about gambling. So all these are regulations, and all these are things that the believers now used to do this before believing in Muhammad and believing in the message. So it's a kind of preparing, educating, improving, developing, building the new members of community, of the Muslim community, to be a true viceroys. Talks about orphans. This is, talks about orphan regulations with orphans. Talks about Talut. This is a story of the king Talut. It talks about spending, and it talks about the greatest ayah in the Holy Quran. The greatest surah is Al-Fatiha. The greatest ayah is Ayatul Kursi. Ayatul Kursi. We'll talk about this in details, inshallah. Talks about again Abraham with people who argued with him about Allah. So to recap this part talks about the comprehensiveness of Islam, and it emphasizes the fact that a true believer has to follow, has to be pious, and has to be distinctive, has to be pious, and has to be distinctive, and has to obey Say, I listen and obey. I listen and obey. And then come the last two ayahs in the surah. This is comes with the supplication, because actually, as you have in the big chunk of regulation and rules, it's heavy, it's a lot, and you will not be able to do it without helping or asking support from Allah to help you stick to these regulations, stick to these rules, apply what He asked you to do. ربنا لا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. And the meaning, the summarizing meaning of the last two ayat in Surah Al-Baqarah is what the last two ayat talks about. People, believers, the believers asking help, assistance from their Lord to help them carry out this mission. And this is exactly what was asked in Surah Al-Fatiha. Ihdina as-salat al-mustaqim. Guide us to the right path. Allah has shown them the right path, and they knew it. They are going to obey, but they cannot obey by themselves without the assistance, with the help and support of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As I say this, I thank everyone who is listening to us, and it's time for the question. Thank you so much for listening. Let me see. Okay, where is the chat? Okay, let me stop sharing. Maybe, okay. Chat, I can see. Are there any questions? What could be the hikmah of this type of separation of parts of this surah? Earlier, you made a comparison between Orthodox and Orthodox. I think you said. Oh, the hikmah of the type of separation of parts of this surah. I'm not sure of which parts you mean. If the one who asked it, it means that the part one that talks about the introduction, and part one, Adam, children of Israel, and Abraham, and then part three about regulations, or talking about the third part with its two parts. If you meant the first one, this is to show examples before jumping in. This is models that you have seen that came before you, that has been given a message from Allah, and this is how they behave. So I have chosen you, I have given you Muhammad with a message, with a new message, with the Quran, with regulations. So are you going to do it like Adam? Are you going to do it with Bani Israel? Or are you going to follow it as Abraham did? This is why these three stories came before talking about the regulation. If you are talking about the separation of talking about all these topics within this chunk of the talks to the believers, from fasting to prayers to fighting to usury to divorce to marriage, all this is because later in the Quran tells us about the people of the book of the who carried the Torah, make it sections. يَجْعَلُونَهُ قَرَاطِيس. They make it sections. Section of fighting, section of marriage, section of halal food, section of non-halal food. They make it separate section. And when people came to ask them, they would bring up the section that they want the people know, and they would hide the section that they don't want people to know about. تبدونها وتخفون كثيرا منها. Allah is talking, this is in another ayah, in Surah Al-Baqarah, but in another surah. يعني they have been given a comprehensive message, but they put it in sections, and that's why this part has represented Islam in a comprehensive way. So you wouldn't say, oh, Islam is praying, it's not only praying. Islam is Hajj, is not only Hajj. Islam is fighting, is not only fighting. Islam is about, no, Islam is a 24/7. Islam is a 360. Let me give you an example about divorce, for example. When Allah talks about divorce in Islam, it might be the most required solution to solve a problem. But how to do it, this is what the surah tells about. Yani the Islam tells the people, or tells many people, that when the divorce is not a reaction of an angry moment. You are angry, so go, you are divorced. No, it is an action that comes as a result of an absolutely well thought of decision. That's why when someone decides or he is thinking to get divorced, Islam teaches them not to make, not to announce, not to proclaim, not to claim divorce if the woman is during a time, during the time of the month that there was no intimate relationship with. So you have to wait until the next cycle of the monthly period comes in, and then you can decide. This gives you time to think about it. So divorce now doesn't come as a result of an angry moment. It comes of, oh, I've thought a lot about it. I have been thinking about it for 3 weeks. Uh, no, this life is unbearable. We cannot go on. And then when you go to divorce, this Surah Al-Baqarah talks about the divorce in the how to do it in details. And the people don't lose their relationship with each other because they got divorced. If you got divorced, no, you are not husband and wife now, but you are now two Muslims. You have children between you. How will you do that? You have money related between you. You have issues like still hanging between you. How will you do with it? You do it through with true believers. And this is, and so to summarize my answer for this question, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah knows the best. This is an attempt, a humble attempt to answer it. Allah has put it so no one would think that Allah is, or Islam is only one thing. Islam regulates your life 360. Yeah, what you eat, what you don't eat, what you think of, what you didn't think of, what you do, what job is legal, what job is not legal, what money, how you spend your money, how not to spend your money, everything, anything, what you say, what you are not supposed to say. This is, as I said, a comprehensive way of living your life. Any other questions? Thank you so much. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah bless you. Is it about like explaining it? Yeah, orthodoxy. Ortho, it comes from Latin. Ortho means a sound. The word ortho means a sound or correct. Doxy means a belief. So the correct belief. This is what in Christianity is. The correct, as long as you have the correct belief in Jesus, you are fine. You are given salvation. Khalas, you are going to Jannah. As long as you believe in him, go do whatever you want. This is the true. Islam is orthopraxy. Orthopraxy means ortho, again, sound, correct, righteous, and the praxy means action. So Islam is both now. Is orthodoxy, the correct belief, that you have the correct belief in your, who is your Lord, who is your Allah? Is he one, or he is one in three, or three in one? No, he's only, the Islam says Allah is one and only one. And Jesus is the child, Jesus is not the child of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jesus is a prophet like Moses, like Abraham, like Muhammad, like Yusuf, like Jacob. And Maryam got Jesus with a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is, so you have the true belief about Allah, who is Allah. And then you have the true actions. So your actions, the way you lead your life. Yani you don't trade in business, or you do make business as something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in mind, for example. Yani you have a gas station, and you have like wine, you are selling wine it, or something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked not to deal with it. But this is where I get from, this is from where I get money. But Allah is, this is going back again to the obedience rule. Obey, don't argue. If you are a true believer, are you going to argue? But living here, are going to come with excuses and justifications. So you are now arguing, and you are being giving an example of those who have argued a lot, and you have known their destination is. Do you want to be like them? It's your choice now. So I hope that now we see that the surah, it is 286 verses, but it is just one whole thing. Thank you so much for listening to me. Inshallah, we'll meet again in summer. Hopefully, we'll stay tuned for more information. This is the last session in Ramadan. May Allah accept it from those who are fasting. May Allah give peace and the prayers be upon us all. May Allah bless us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.